Did a routine refinery flare turn your neighborhood into a blast zone? Tonight, Maya brings community history and grievance. Leo offers forensic skepticism. We'll test the official timeline, probe conflicting eyewitness accounts, and explain what's at stake for health, fuel supply, and accountability. Tonight's tension is stark. Officials call this an isolated refinery fire with no injuries, while people describe a night sky lit like a blast and homes rattling for miles. We're going to lay out the timeline, then test it against what folks on the ground saw.
Look, when neighbors say the windows shook and it felt like a plane crash, that is not just optics, that is fear. One teen said, "I ran out thinking it was a rocket," and another said, "I thought we got nuked or something." That panic comes from lived experience.
I hear the adrenaline, but let's slow down. Early live shots showed flare stacks burning, which refineries do on purpose. One chopper crew said those burn-offs looked normal at first. Then a separate unit caught fire. Two truths can coexist.
Here's the official arc. A little after 9:30 p.m., Thursday, a powerful explosion at Chevron's El Segundo refinery sent a fireball into the night. Fire crews from Chevron, El Segundo, and the county converged. Roads along Rosecrans and Pacific Coast Highway were closed. Some nearby areas were told to shelter in place. By about 7 a.m. Friday, officials said the blaze was contained but still burning down residual fuel. The division chief put it bluntly, "It's a waiting game, keep equipment cool, depressurize, let the gasoline burn out."
A waiting game while jet fuel and diesel burn over homes? That's a gut punch to fence line communities. People said they could see 3 distinct flame points and a kind of blast furnace effect shooting into the sky. That matters for trust and for health.
The tactical piece matters too. From the air, you could see crews using a heavy water cannon, classic surround and drown, to keep heat from spreading. Reporters noted it was one area on fire, not the whole plant. Containment, not catastrophe.
Chevron called it an isolated fire and said all personnel and contractors were accounted for, no injuries. Air agencies reported no exceedances at the fence line. The regional regulator said they were not seeing elevated particulates or air toxins at that time.
Agencies always add the caveat, conditions can change. Residents were told to close windows if they see or smell smoke. That's the reality. Meanwhile, a message out of Manhattan Beach said no evacuations, stay inside. Clearer, faster communication is a form of care.
Personal responsibility too. If you smell it, seal up, run filters, avoid the area, and credit the pros. Refinery teams train for this. The footage showed sprinklers triggering and lines being shut. One anchor even guessed it looked like a pipe break, not a full blowout.
Let's face the contradictions. Some live coverage called the 2 flare stacks routine burn-offs. Others insisted they were emergency venting tied to the incident. Witness accounts varied wildly, from a mushroom cloud to a contained torch from a pressurized line.
Early chaos breeds noise. One helicopter pilot heard other pilots mention normal burn-off before the blast. Later, another crew said the venting wasn't planned. That's exactly why we wait for investigators and stick to what's confirmed. No injuries, containment by morning.
But no injuries doesn't equal no harm. Acute exposures aren't only measured in ER visits, and this facility has a pattern. Fires in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2022. That is not a one-off. That's systemic risk normalized.
Cause remains under investigation. Reports say a processing unit ignited. Some specifically cite the Isomax 7 unit that makes jet fuel. We should note, even the unit name isn't uniformly reported yet. That uncertainty is part of the picture tonight.
And footage showed the main torch source elevated maybe 50 feet, which explains why foam streams couldn't quite reach. That points to a high-pressure line failure feeding a localized blaze. Scary? Sure, but still one zone, not the domino nightmare people fear.
Localized doesn't mean harmless when you're under that plume. Anchors described black smoke punching into the marine layer. Residents could taste it. Those plume exposures fall first on the same neighborhoods every time. That's environmental injustice in action.
The site is huge, built in 1911, spanning roughly 1,000 acres to about 2 square miles, depending on the source. It processes on the order of the high hundreds of thousands of barrels per day. Again, figures vary across reports.
Scale cuts both ways. Big plants have redundancy and their own fire departments. One reporter mentioned roughly 1,100 miles of pipelines across the property. That's an engineering maze, yes, but also a lot of valves to shut and ways to isolate faults.
Or a lot of pathways for failure. When you've got that many lines, a single bad gasket, a lax inspection, or delayed maintenance can become a neighborhood-wide alarm. People described a blast furnace jetting from a metal box. What was the inspection record on that?
Public officials were briefed overnight. El Segundo's mayor noted the city station is about a quarter mile from Chevron's gates. Los Angeles' mayor said LAX continued normal operations. The governor was updated. The message, contained, monitored, and under study.
That matches what we saw. Lots of lights, lots of apparatus. But the vast majority of the refinery untouched. One anchor even said it didn't look like huge destruction, more like a torch from a break. That visual matters when people imagine total meltdown.
And yet folks heard and felt it across the South Bay. One pilot said the blast lit the night sky from across the valley. When neighbors say their kids were terrified, we can't file that under optics. That's social cost repeatedly paid by the same zip codes.
Eyewitness voices were vivid. A 13-year-old, I ran out thinking it was a rocket. A soccer parent, I thought we got nuked or something. Another resident described 300-foot flames. The on-site worker, a pressurized whoosh, then everything lit up.
Those are real feelings. They're also snapshots in chaos. Even local newsers kept saying, we don't know the cause, we haven't heard of injuries, we're watching crews work. That restraint is key. Social media, meanwhile, loves the word explosion.
Explosions are news because they're dangerous. From the helicopter, you could see foam couldn't reach the elevated source. That suggests a risk profile the public deserves to understand, what safeguards failed, and are alarms and automatic shutdowns sufficient?
Investigators are working the cause, and there are smaller contradictions to track. Capacity numbers range from the high to hundreds of thousands. The site size is described as roughly 1,000 acres to about 2 square miles. A witness name varies across reports.
That's the messy first 48 hours. The useful constants are these. Crews contained the fire by morning, no injuries reported, the airport kept running, and monitors didn't show spikes. That should calibrate our reaction, even as we ask hard questions.
Hard questions include enforcement. This refinery has had multiple fires in recent years. Are penalties meaningful, or are fines priced in as a cost of doing business? Do neighbors get health screenings and air purifiers, or just a press release and a shrug?
Let's touch fuel implications. The complex supplies a large share of jet fuel and gasoline for Southern California. Analysts say it's too soon to know supply impacts. Some expect regional pump prices could tick up, even if global oil markets barely notice.
And we shouldn't pre-blame this fire for every gas station sign. Maintenance cycles, taxes, seasonal blends, all matter. If the unit is isolated and repair time is short, impacts could be muted. Panic buying does more damage than the outage itself.
Meanwhile, essential workers still commute. Price spikes hit hardest at the bottom. If this plant is central to jet fuel, what contingencies protect airport workers and travelers when a single point of failure flickers? Redundancy isn't just an engineering term.
Quick recap as we pivot. Officially, explosion after 9:30, visible fireball, rapid multi-agency response, shelter advisories, containment by dawn, no injuries, air monitors steady so far, cause under investigation, publicly shock, fear, and vivid testimony.
And a reminder that refinery fire crews on site exist for exactly this. You could see their team staged west of the flares, coordinating with city engines. It's not the Wild West. It's drills, playbooks, and cool-down tactics used across the industry.
Those playbooks still left a jet of flame blasting from a metal shed. Reporters pointed to a likely valve hunt amid a lattice of pipes. The scale, 1,000 acres roughly, means complex systems. Complexity amplifies risk when oversight is thin.
Or complexity builds layers of protection. Redundant shutdowns, relief valves, flares that vent product away from workers. That torch you saw may be the ugly safe failure mode versus pressure building, where you don't want it. A controlled ugly outcome beats the alternative.
Safe for whom? Neighbors watched black smoke smear the sky. Even if monitors show no exceedances, those networks can miss short, intense plumes. Agencies themselves warn to act if you see or smell smoke. That uncertainty is borne by the public.
On communications, early coverage was blunt about not knowing the cause and not hearing of injuries. A city nearby told residents to stay inside. That's better than silence, but the gap between contained and what am I breathing is the hard part to close.
Practical steps matter. Air purifiers, duct tape for leaky windows, preset alerts on your phone, knowing which roads like Rosecrans close in an event. Waiting for an agency text in the middle of the night isn't a plan. Having your own kit is.
And the systemic step is shrinking the hazard, stricter maintenance, stronger penalties, real-time community monitoring with plain language dashboards, and expanding buffer zones. People shouldn't have to DIY safety from a high-risk industrial neighbor.
One more twist from the reporting. Even a witness name appears as Keith in some pieces and Kevin in others for the same quote. It underscores how chaotic these nights are. Our job is to separate durable facts from the swirl while preserving the human texture.
Durable facts include the refinery's history, with its own emergency team and community drills. Also that the vast majority of the plant wasn't on fire. Seeing those lights from the helicopter, an ocean of infrastructure, can make a single flame look like the whole world.
But when a crew on scene says it was like a pressurized wind and everything lit up, that's a worker's reality. I want to hear from workers about near misses, about maintenance backlogs, about whether cost-cutting shows up as thinner margins of safety.
The facility's importance is clear. It supplies a large share of the region's jet fuel and gasoline. That centrality raises the stakes. Operational safety isn't just a company issue, it's a regional one, and it shapes the politics of enforcement and transparency.
Transparency, yes. But let's not pretend you can run modern mobility without refineries tomorrow. The practical path is making them safer, holding them to account, and resisting the media's mushroom cloud temptation when the data points to containment.
Containment isn't comfort when the alarm is monthly. Past fires in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2022 signal a pattern. If this were a school catching fire every couple years, we'd call it unacceptable, not business as usual.
Second brief recap. The verified core. An explosion after nightfall, dramatic flames, swift response, shelter advisories, monitored air with no reported spikes at that time, containment by morning, 0 injuries, cause unknown, and investigations ongoing.
I'd add one more verified element, the airport running normally. That matters for perspective. Headlines sometimes imply a region on pause. In reality, critical services stayed up while crews isolated the problem. That's a good sign for resilience.
Resilience also means prevention and equity. When monitors read fine yet people smell gas, believe people. Fund mobile monitoring in the blocks downwind, publish maintenance logs, and when incidents happen, deliver immediate support to the closest neighbors.
One lingering discrepancy. Some reports vaguely say processing unit. Others name the Isomax 7 jet fuel unit. That detail matters for understanding any knock-on supply effects. It's on investigators and the company to clarify precisely what failed and why.
And if it is a jet fuel unit, supply chains can flex. Storage, imports, other refineries. Markets adapt, even if prices wiggle. The worst thing we do after an incident is light a secondary fire in people's wallets by feeding panic.
Panic isn't the point. Accountability is. If foam couldn't reach an elevated leak, do we mandate new fixed monitors and deluge systems up high? Do we require drills that assume inaccessible elevation? That is policy, not panic.
We should also examine communications across jurisdictions. One helicopter crew couldn't get to the LAX side. Traffic was a maze. Public updates trickled. In future reviews, expect questions on road control, public alerts, and how quickly plain language info went out.
Plain language like stay indoors, avoid Rosecrans and Pacific Coast Highway, turn off HVAC if you smell smoke. Those notes did reach people. More consistency helps, but the basics landed, and that matters in the first hour when rumors outrun facts.
And the basics should include free masks, air filters, and a hotline staffed by humans. If we can mobilize dozens of engines in minutes, we can mobilize community care with the same urgency. That is what safety looks like on the ground.
As the story moves from flame to forensics, here's what to watch. A clear unit ID and failure mode. Air data over time, not just snapshots. Whether prior incident lessons were applied, and whether regulators convene a public hearing with independent experts.
And keep watching for mission creep in the narrative. It's easy to leap from one bad night to broad claims about collapse. Demand specifics. Which valve? Which protocol? Which fix? Specifics are where accountability lives, not in generalized outrage.
Specifics and power. Who pays for the fix? Who breathes the risk while the fix gets made? Who profits when things run smoothly? This pattern keeps asking the same question: is the cost of reliability socialized while the benefits are privatized?
We'll leave it there for tonight, with one eye on the investigation and another on the community fallout. As facts harden, we'll revisit the contradictions and the fixes. Next, we'll look at how refineries model worst-case plumes, and whether those models match reality.